Yes, hello. Welcome to Inside the Huddle. We are back in business. Myself and my regular partner, Jeff Reinebold, joining us all the way from Hawaii. Before we hear from Jeff, there have been a few Inside the Huddles released recently. So go and check them out if you haven't already. Some of my interviews from training camp with Aaron Rodgers, Bijan Robinson, Trevor Lawrence, Amon Russell Brown, they're all on the podcast feed. So please give those a listen if you can. But Jeff, haven't seen you or spoken to you for ages. How are you, mate?
Way too long, my man. How was France?
It was very good. Yeah, France was amazing. I was down a couple of days in Nice and then just a little campsite between Cannes and Saint Tropez. So, yeah, the kids still all come with us, which is great. They're all in all in the times when they should be vacationing on their own, but they come. But then it gets competitive. You see, Jeff. Then there's tennis matches and there's all sorts of swimming races. I mean, it wore me out, but it was great. So very good.
You gotta love it. Time with your family, man. That's about the best thing. You can't hide money, Neil, when you're in Saint Tropez on a little holiday. That's pretty nice.
Did you not hear me say campsite? I didn't say hotel.
Did
I
you get
said,
room? Did you have room service at the campsite?
well, actually, we had a visit into our room on the last night, a gigantic lizard. I wasn't happy. You'd be fine with that. You're used to all of that stuff and all the wildlife. My first thing I did, ran straight over to the other uh, mobile home and got my daughter's boyfriend. Help! he came over with a bin, and then we actually couldn't find the lizard, so we're hoping it got out. Otherwise, I need to unpack my clothes carefully.
I hope George has footage of that.
George had been and gone by then. He'd been worn me out with the tennis and the swimming and everything, and then gone. So, but yeah, we are back. Um, my training camp trip was great, Jeff. That was an adventure as always, but
Tell
just
me
very,
that.
very exciting.
Tell me that you got better. You got a better travel log than the what you used to get.
We actually put some days off in. I mean, I don't want to tell the bosses of Sky, but we managed to get a little bit of rest in here and there, although they were travel days.
No, you didn't have any 4 o'clock departures to go meet Jimmy Tom Sula 6 hours away for breakfast.
I did, Jeff, and you'll appreciate this. Everyone thinks this job's super glamorous, and it's all kind of, you know, exactly like you just said, 5-star hotel, all of that. It's not like so. We left the New York Jets on one of the nights. I don't remember what night it was. It was fourth or fifth night, and we left them in the afternoon. And we're driving to the Steelers. So we're driving from New York through Pennsylvania. It's all hills, middle of nowhere. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's me, producer Greg Bushell, who's on producing today's show, cameraman Scott Drummond, and we can't find a restaurant anywhere. So we stop about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, maybe it was a bit later. The sun's kind of setting. It was beautiful. The sun was setting behind the hills, but we couldn't find anywhere to eat. We ended up eating, I don't know how old the sandwich was, from a Flying J. You know, like a Flying J. The truck
Not a
stop.
truck stop. The truck
Yeah,
stop.
from the Flying J. I had a chicken wrap and a drink, and I'm sitting there eating it on the hood of the car, just leaning on the hood of the rental car.
That chicken wrap might have been older than the car.
Funny you should mention that because I invented a new kind of diet the next day. I lost quite a bit of weight.
Yeah.
Right.
No
we've
more
got the
details, please.
No, that's enough. Let's move on. We've got the season starting, of course, on Thursday night. The Ravens and the Chiefs. Then there's the Brazil game Friday. We'll be in the studio on Sunday from 5 o'clock for our regular coverage of Week One. But we're going to be on Mondays and Thursdays this year. So me and Jeff are going to react immediately to what's happened the night before. So you don't have to wait until Wednesday to hear from myself and Jeff, and then we'll be looking ahead to the weekend's action. But today we're going to look at a couple of news stories, but we're also going to put our necks on the line, Jeff. A couple of predictions. So we're going to do most valuable player, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year. Surprise package can be a player or a team, a shock team to miss the playoffs, and then our Super Bowl lineup. But before we get to all of that, just really concerning news, Jeff, to wake up to on Sunday morning that Ricky Pearsall, the first round wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, was shot in the chest during a robbery in Union Square in San Francisco. Thankfully, the the bullet wound, missed all his vital organs, came straight out the other side. He's already been released from hospital. No indication yet as to when he'll be back on the field, how long that's going to take, all of that. And Jeff, on a personal level for him, hugely tragic and very sad and scary. Um, from a football fan point of view, I really enjoyed watching him the day I was there in training camp. He was electric. He was fantastic. He was going to be a great addition. This is just such an unfortunate and scary situation, isn't it?
Neil, it's absurd because here's a guy who goes to Union Square to do a public appearance and sign autographs, and a 17-year-old kid carrying a gun. There's an altercation. Apparently there was a robbery of some sort. That whether it was Ricky, the details are really sketchy, but the kid pulls the gun and it shoots him right in the chest, and thank God the bullet passed through and didn't hit any vital organs. But you just shake your head and you go, "What? This is nuts. It's absolutely nuts." How these guys are, trying to do something good in the community, to go down and do an appearance, sign autographs, meet people, do all that, and now they're putting their lives at risk. It's I like Jesse. So I talked to Jesse Sapola, from the great center from the 49ers, those great teams, and he was just like stupefied that something like this could happen.
I mean, these are the calls you don't want to get as a coach, as a head coach.
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
you can't look after them all the time, but at least when they're in your building, they're secure and they're safe. But this is, they have to live their lives. And like you said, the NFL is built on this kind of foundation of connecting players and communities. And for this to happen when he was doing that is kind of added insult to injury.
Yeah, and what I worry about beyond Ricky's health and his career and all of that is how this is going to affect other guys who say, "Hey, wait a second now. I'm not going to put my life at risk to go down into downtown New York or San Francisco or Chicago or wherever or any place because I'm a target," right? And when I talked to Maurice Kelly, the vice president of the Seahawks, who does all the player development stuff for the symposium, and he talks about how there's a certain amount of callous that these players have to develop because they realize that you are really you're a moving target for a lot of different people. And it's all of the superstardom and all of it that we see, that it comes with a high cost.
Yeah, I mean, this was middle of the afternoon as well. So, you often sort of say to players, nothing good happens after midnight, all of that. This was a really unfortunate situation right in the middle of the day. We wish Ricky Pearsall all the best in his recovery, and I can't wait to see him on the field because he was fantastic in training camp. A little bit more good news for the 49ers, Jeff. Let's stay with the wide receivers. They finally end the Brandon Aiyuk saga. 4 years, 120 million extension. Just the latest in that 30 million a year club now. CeeDee Lamb got his deal done with Dallas. Tyreek Hill was in that 30 million range when he re-upped with the Dolphins. Amon-Ra St. Brown with Detroit. Jamar Chase is next, you would imagine, or there's going to be some discontent there. But this makes sense, doesn't it? Brandon Aiyuk to stay with the 49ers for now, because obviously they've got to pay Brock Purdy down the road.
I think it does for a lot of reasons. For the San Francisco 49ers, made perfect sense. It was interesting as you watch the thing go on, the negotiations and the hold in and all of it, that transpired. At the end, you really saw the toll that it had taken on John Lynch. He looked exhausted at the end of the negotiation. I think, what's interesting to me, Neil, is everybody says that these guys go to the highest bidder. Well, that's not the case, because Brandon Aiyuk could have gone to New England for more money, could have gone to Cleveland for more money, and reportedly could have gone to Pittsburgh for more money.
Yeah, so Jeff, he chose to stay with the 49ers.
Yeah, he did. And, California's got the highest state taxes in the United States. So he didn't do it for money or solely for money. And you talk about that $30 million club. He could have got more in New England. He could have got more in Cleveland. Reportedly could have got more in Pittsburgh. And he chose to go back and play for the 49ers. And I think that says an awful lot about that organization and the seriousness that players take in winning a championship. I think he knows that's where he has the best chance to leave a legacy and get a Super Bowl ring.
I can't say that receivers are being paid quarterback money anymore because they're all north of 50 million a year, but they are being handsomely and rightly rewarded, Jeff, given the impact on the way the passing game is so influential now. Is it right that the Justin Jeffersons, the CD Lambs, Brandon Aiyuk, even Jalen Waddle was up near 30 million when he re-upped with the Dolphins as well. Is it right given, I guess the proliferation of the passing game across the league?
Well, I think whether it's right or wrong is the facts are that that's what the market bears, and it's just like any other business. If the market bears a certain number, then you expect that number as a guy who's entering into a contract dispute. The game has changed, and I think we see that on the defensive side of the ball too, where the middle linebacker once upon a time was the kingpin of the defense and it was paid the highest. Now it's the edge rushers, so the game changes, the game evolves, and that's the one thing that you can assure everybody about in professional football is things change.
All right. Well, these predictions, we hope they don't change because we hope we're right on the money. So what we say now will bear fruit in mid-February. So we're going to go through all of our predictions for the coming season, which of course, again, kicks off on Thursday night on Sky Sports. Baltimore against Kansas City. Then you got the Brazil game, Philadelphia and Green Bay on Friday night. And then we're into the studio on Sunday for Atlanta and Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Dallas. And of course, the subplot to Cleveland and Dallas is Tom Brady's first game in the booth. There'll be as much attention listening to the guy calling the game as those playing the game as Brady makes his TV debut. But let's make our predictions then, Jeff. And we're going to start with this year's most valuable player. Who will it be?
Well, I'm gonna, I love boxing, that, and I'm gonna make a fight analogy. To beat the champion, you gotta knock him out. And right now, Patrick Mahomes is the champion, and I don't see anybody knocking Patrick Mahomes out of that, out of that status that he has as the most valuable player in the National Football League.
It's a good bet. It's a good bet for sure. I'm going to go with the guy who almost knocked him out last year then. So I think it's Brock Purdy's time.
Do you really? Oh, wow.
Finally. Yeah, because I feel like if you look statistically and games won, Brock Purdy has been the best statistically for the last couple of years. Now, I still think the Mr. Irrelevant thing hangs a bit like an anvil around his neck. People are quick to say it's McCaffrey, Debo, Aiyuk, all of that. I think this is the year Brock Purdy silences all of that, proves that he is the much more than the game manager. So I'm going Brock Purdy for MVP, which might tip my hand when we get to the Super Bowl predictions later. That's a tease.
All right. Now, before you go on, I got to ask you this question, right? I know this is totally off script, but I got to ask you this question because you said Brock Purdy. Do you think it's because he's got Debo and all that, all the superstars that they have in San Francisco, or do you think they'll ever get that off his name?
I think you're right, Jeff. I think he's going to still, even if he wins it, going to have to deal with all that kind of talk. But I think Brock Purdy is going to be in for a really strong year. Offensive Player of the Year, Jeff. I tell you what, I think I've got a couple of curveballs up my sleeve here.
All right, hit me.
Well, so my Offensive Player of the Year, and I'm relying on somebody to stay healthy at another position, is Breece Hall of the New York Jets.
Ooh.
So I think if Rodgers is healthy, there's more balance. Breece Hall is capable, can catch out the backfield. He can score from anywhere on the field. They've got a better offensive line. He can put up that Christian McCaffrey 1,500 to 2,000 scrimmage yards. So out of left field comes Breece Hall for my Offensive Player of the Year. You?
Well, if Patrick Mahomes is the heavyweight champion, then I'm going to say McCaffrey is the middleweight king, and I don't see Breece Hall unseating the middleweight king. Although, I got to tell you, that's a great call because I didn't even think of Breece Hall. Because when you think of the Jets, I think about Rodgers only, but you realize that that's a great player. And now with a quarterback that will utilize him, that's a good call. I like it.
I've been drinking the training camp Kool-Aid, Jeff. As I said. He sat down with me in New York and said by the end of this season, he wants people to view him as the best running back in the NFL. That's it. He doesn't put numbers on it. He doesn't put numbers. he just thinks by the end of this year, if he's been successful, that's how he'll be viewed. So we will find out. Who you got for defensive player of the year, Jeff?
I think it's a guy that I really waffled on this one a little bit, but then I thought when the Raiders brought Christian Wilkins into the fold, Max Crosby, because Max Crosby's been doing what he's been doing, which is dominating games and the line of scrimmage with not much around him. Now you put a guy inside with Christian Wilkins' pedigree. I think that's going to unleash Max Crosby even more. And I think Max Crosby will be the defensive player of the year.
Well, Jeff, I would love to disagree with you, but I've got Max Crosby written down. Great minds and all that. I'm with you. I mean, look, the guy had 27 sacks over the past 2 seasons, pretty much operating as a one-man defense. I think he's on a Hall of Fame track. I think the energy he plays with. I mean, it's very easy to pick TJ Watt or Nick Bosa, but I feel that Crosby with Wilkins, I mean, that should be illegal. I think them two are going to wreak havoc. I don't think the Raiders are going to go a great distance because I think there's concerns at quarterback, but Crosby will be a dominant performer this year. So I'm going Max Crosby with you. I'll do the rookie of the year first because this is one where I've not gone out of left field. I'm going very, very sensible. Caleb Williams. I mean, there's too much set up for him. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. They've never had a 30 touchdown passes per season quarterback, which is incredible since they've been around since the NFL was born. And this is the 105th season of the NFL. So I just like the way he carries himself, Jeff. I think that we saw enough of those like flash plays, those Mahomes type plays during the preseason. I saw a couple of them for myself during training camp, during team drills. I think everything's around him with Odunze and DJ Moore. I mean, you might be agreeing, so I might have spoken too long then. Who have you got?
It's really spooky the way we think alike sometimes because, you think about it, and I try to think about it logically, not, like, okay, it's all set up for him, Neil. The team is better around him. He's got the best quality team around him of any of the rookies, in particular, because it's going to be a quarterback award if it's even close, right? So you look at that and you say he has that sex appeal. He has that, that style, that thing that, the camera likes him. He's, it's a guy that has all of the stuff in addition to tremendous talent, and he plays in a major market that is starving for a quarterback. To me, it's just too logical to not pick him. I wanted to go with Odunze, but it's just going to be I just really think it's going to be a quarterback award.
Well, if they both succeed, then the quarterback gets it by default. That tends to be how.
You're right. You're exactly right.
All right, Jeff, you lead off on this one. Our surprise package. This could be a player or a team.
Well, I'm going to say, hold on now. This is a team that I saw improvement in last year, and there's been an addition by subtraction at the quarterback position for them. And I think they're very, very pleased with the rookie quarterback who's won the starting job in training camp. And I'm going to say the Denver Broncos are going to be my surprise team because they're good enough defensively. And I think Bo Nix is exactly what the puppeteer wants. And I say the puppeteer, I'm talking about, Sean wants to have his hands on that quarterback. Right. And I think that's going to be a great match.
That is a good show. They finished 8-9. I think they won 6 of their last 7, the Broncos. The match between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson was never there. I mean, the moment that Payton came in and told Russell Wilson he's not having his own office, they had a big sideline bust up as well. And Bo Nix, he won that job, but it was late announcement. But by the sounds of it, he had that lockdown from early in training camp. And was just so efficient, wasn't he? And very, very good for, I mean, it's just such an obvious comparison because of Peyton, but he did get some, Drew Brees mentions.
Well, I think that's natural because of the again, the style of quarterback that he was in training camp, winning that job. He went in there and it's almost like he was programmed for that job, right? The way he approached the competition, the things he said in the media, the way he threw the ball, the accuracy, the decision making, all those things were reminiscent of Drew Brees. And the success that those two guys had makes me believe that the Broncos are on the verge of, really taking off. And I saw them against Buffalo live late in the year last year, and that was kind of a fluky win because Buffalo had a penalty on special teams real late and gave them a second chance at a field goal. But they outplayed the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo late.
Yeah, it's not easy to do at that time of year. My surprise package, and Jeff, I'm just going to pre-warn you, I haven't been on the leftover rosé from the south of France. But I'm saying Sam Darnold, quarterback, Minnesota Vikings.
What?
Hear me out.
What were you? No, you must be on the pastis, not the rosé.
Yeah, I'll definitely be drinking something. So I'm putting this down to, I think he spent a year kind of watching and learning. I'm really going to try and sell this to you. Watching and learning from Kyle Shanahan last year with San Francisco. I think Kevin O'Connell's the perfect coach for a quarterback. I just think there should be a little bit less hand-wringing in Minnesota because JJ McCarthy's gone for the year. As much as we all wanted to see him, I think Darnold with Justin Jefferson, it may be a bit of a slow burner because we don't know what's going to happen with Jordan Addison. He had some legal trouble in the offseason. TJ Hawkinson will miss the first 4 games. I'm talking myself out of it, but I'll get myself back into it. Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson will be a thing in 2024. You're welcome.
My friend, I want to believe that so much because I would love to see Sam Darnold resurrect his career. I really would. But all the image that keeps running through my head as you were talking was from training camp in the preseason game that he throws the interception that goes back for a pick 6, and he's bent over like he's in pain because of the decision that he made. And he didn't even change. I was like, oh God.
You know what they do, Jeff? They try and make throws in the preseason and training camp to see if their guy can make a play. I'm sure that's all it was. That's all it was. All the good stuff.
Sell yourself, buddy.
Maybe all the good stuff. Okay, you tell me a team that maybe a team that would be a shock if they miss the playoffs, but they could potentially find themselves in trouble this season, Jeff.
Well, I'm gonna, and this one's gonna upset you a little bit because it's gonna hurt, right? But you've been hurt before, right?
Many times.
So, the Miami Dolphins, who last year, you talk about an overhyped, overrated football team. They won 1 game against a team with a winning record and folded like the tent that you camped in the south of France late in the season.
And the only team they beat was an overhyped, overrated Dallas Cowboys team.
Exactly. And you got a quarterback who I love, but is always just a whisker away from being out for the season. And so I'm going to say the Miami Dolphins.
So I wrote down 4 teams and I was going to whittle it down as I was speaking because I had down Dallas, Pittsburgh, Miami. I was sharing it. I would say Cleveland because I think they've got a very, very talented roster, but so much still depends on Deshaun Watson. There's no Joe Flacco insurance policy there this time around for them. I think Pittsburgh probably, Jeff. I think Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin might have his first losing season. I think Pittsburgh, we don't know who's quarterback yet. They have enough on offense still.
You know what? And both of them played even when Russell played at the end in preseason, they were abysmal on offense the entire preseason. Matt Canada took so much grief. That the offensive coordinator they fired, they bring in a whole new offense, and they look like the same old Steelers. Can't run the ball, can't throw it down the field. That's scary to me if you're a Pittsburgh fan.
Jeff, this is encouraging for me, is because we're building into our preseason, into the regular season flow, and you said Matt Canada took so much grief. I like it. No need for the bleep button, anything. This is great. We're evolving. All right.
Give me a couple episodes and I'll be back to my
absolutely fine. So we need to work that out of you. These are like the preseason interceptions. You need to get them in the rearview mirror. So Super Bowl lineup and winner. Actually, let's backtrack. So my final four is San Francisco, Detroit, and Baltimore, Houston. I think CJ Stroud will be very close in the running for MVP. So I really believe in Houston, but I'm going for 12 years after the lights went out, back in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59 will be San Francisco against Baltimore, a repeat matchup. And I believe, because I've got Brock Purdy as MVP, I believe that the San Francisco 49ers, who've been so close in recent years, have to find a way to get over the hump. And I think they do it this year. San Francisco over Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, all of that gang. So the 49ers will be Super Bowl champs. Jeff, give me your final four, the Super Bowl lineup, and who wins it all.
All right. Before I go to my final four, I just want to share this with you, right? If you're listening to this and not watching it, you just bear with me. But if you're watching it, this is my notes. And if you notice there, it says Baltimore and the 49ers, and the 49ers win. So
great minds.
I don't know if that's like, I mean, if I have, I can reconsider it if we have to be controversial, but I swear to you, that's exactly how I feel, Neil.
Yeah. What about Baltimore? We both got Baltimore then going very close and could win the Super Bowl this year, even though they lost more than 20 players in the offseason. I'm not worried because I think their depth is there, their culture is there, and they have I guess really from Lamar, the season's going to start in January, but they do have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Right. I think both of those teams should be favorites because Kansas City still, they've got some injuries coming out of training camp. The receiver room is still, kind of a work in progress. They lost a lot of good players on defense, the best corner in the league. There's a lot of, reasons why they should take a little bit of a step back, and a little bit of a step back gets you beat in this league. But, here's the thing to me, Neil, and you talked about Houston, and I think Houston has a real puncher's chance to win the Super Bowl. And if CJ Stroud doesn't have the sophomore slump, which I don't think he will, the receiver room, the biggest problem with the receiver room is there's only one football to throw out there because they got tons of guys that can catch it. They got a great tight end. They're better with you get Danielle Hunter on defense. Gives you another outstanding pass rusher. And I love DeMeco Ryans and what he's done there. So I think Houston's my favorite dark horse, if you will. I tell you what, and you said Detroit, and I just like you're a Dolphins fan, like I'm a Detroit Lion fan. We've suffered so many years of disappointment, and now they're right there. And I think what I'm gonna, I think it's so hard to do what he's done and then keep that chip on their shoulder that they play with, because everybody's picking them now. They're the anointed one. It's one thing to be the hunter. It's another thing to be the hunted. And, it's a different deal.
Well, I asked Dan Campbell that in training camp, Jeff. First of all, 10 minutes with Dan Campbell, I wanted to run. I was like, show me a wall now, and I'm going to run into it. He was brilliant. It was fantastic. But he said, he played on the whole, we've got a target on our back. He said to me, the words he said, people will be circling us on their schedule, and want to play the Detroit Lions. He said, but how do you know we're not circling you? We want you as well. And the interview was going really well, so I got a little bit brave. I said, the whole chip on the shoulder thing's great, but and we talked about having a team of fighters. And I said, but you've now got a team of really rich fighters because they all got paid this year. All the key players got paid a lot of money. And he said it hasn't changed them. So we'll see. We'll see whether that changes them. I don't think he'll allow it to change them. So I think Detroit will be kind of there or thereabouts. But he was fantastic. Just on coaches, Jeff, I used the word with have to for the 49ers. I think Kyle Shanahan has to win a Super Bowl this year. You were out, I don't know if you noticed it last year leading up to the game against the Chiefs. A lot more questions about how Kyle Shanahan had dealt with big moments, about the previous Super Bowls. Now he's got another one to add to that to talk about where it went wrong. And I think he started to get a little bit scratchy answering some of that stuff last year. Now, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL for sure, but that is a narrative. And whether you can say, oh, we block out all the noise or whatever, the narrative still exists. That is the narrative for the 49ers and in particular for Kyle Shanahan, all the way
Well,
up to the Super Bowl.
no question, because when we were out there in Las Vegas, that was and you could tell he was getting prickly, with the questions, and but until it goes away, and there's only one way it's gonna go away, you either get fired and don't coach anymore, or you win a Super Bowl. And so as long as he's got that job and he's got that football team and they are as good as they are and they can't finish, it's going to constantly haunt him, just like it did Marv Levy and just like it did a number of other coaches who could get to the dance but couldn't take the prom queen home.
Yeah, no, it's the way it's going to be, especially for a team that's that good. And I guess the clock is ticking. We're still waiting as we record this to see what happens with Trent Williams. They need to get that All-Pro left tackle locked up on a deal. But coming next year, Jeff, is Brock Purdy's contract. And if Tua's getting $53 million a year, Daniel Jones is getting $40 million a year for the New York Giants. I mean, Purdy's going to get $50 million a year. And as you say so often, you cannot pay them all. So they've got, it's not a last dance, but it's not far off.
No, you're right. And you think about the salary cap implications, because if he wins a Super Bowl, right, then it's going to be way upside, way more than 50, right? 50 will be the that's where they'll start the discussion.
Right. Yeah, no, it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out, to see if our predictions come anywhere close, and to see if Sam Darnold creates
I'm gonna remember that one. As a matter of fact, I'm writing it down.
You write it.
Neil said on this date, September 1.
The surprise package is more likely to be Aaron Donald, and he's been retired for 8 months. All right, so we've got a special Inside the Huddle on Thursday. We're going to record from the NFL. The NFL and Sky have teamed up to have they've got this big posh house in the countryside, Jeff, decked out like a bit like the Rams draft house, I think.
Are we going over to Henry Hodson's place?
I think it is his house. Yeah, it's got a swimming pool and everything. So I think it's 100% his out in the Oxfordshire countryside. So that will be on Thursday with all the gang, and then Monday we'll be back then, Jeff, and we'll have a lot to talk about. That might turn into like a 3-hour show every Monday. We need to edit ourselves.
I love it.
All right. So everyone, enjoy week 1 of the NFL season. The long wait is almost over, and the 2024 campaign is about to get underway. And then until myself and Jeff are back with you on Monday, say goodbye to the good folks, Jeffrey.
Aloha.